Hello, I'm Neil Bradley, Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us for our ongoing discussion about how we combat retail crime theft. You know, you turn on your news any given day of the week, and chances are you're likely to see a story of a small business or a retailer that was hit by what has really become a pandemic across the United States. Retail crime, often organized, smash and grab jobs that aren't victimless crimes, but rain terror in shopkeepers, workers, customers, and frankly, contribute to increased prices for all of us as consumers. The data bears out what we see in the news. 56% of small businesses report that they were a victim of retail theft in the past year, and 53% tell us that the problem is getting worse. We know it's a situation that demands attention from all of our elected officials at all levels of government, from the federal level to the state level to local officials who are often at the very front lines of combating this problem. Today, we're joined for an important discussion about what local district attorneys are doing to combat retail theft. Today, I'm joined by District Attorney Flynn, the District Attorney of Erie County, New York, who also happens to serve as the chairman of the National District Attorneys Association. He just came off his one-year stint as president of that organization, and he has a front row insights both to what district attorneys are facing today, but also what's happening nationally. So District Attorney Flynn, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you very much.
So please, you're on the front lines. Tell us what you're seeing.
Sure. I want to just start off by saying thank you to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for taking this seriously. Far too often we see individuals across this country just kind of brush this off and say, you know what? Businesses have insurance. They have they build this into their pricing models that theft occurs, and therefore, all we're going to do is just add a couple cents to a product and make up what we get stolen on, and it's no big deal. Well, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other retail associations are starting to put their foot down and say this is a big deal. Retail theft has become much more serious in the past couple of years, and I can kind of give you a general overview about what we're seeing here. There are basically three types of individuals who are involved in retail theft. The first are, multinational criminal organizations. You talk about, the mafia, Russian crime families, the Mexican cartels. These are obviously organized, multinational criminal entities that get involved in all sorts of crime across the country, but have now turned their sights now on retail crime as well. That's the first group. The second group is also organized, but it's organized in a much more loose fashion where you have maybe 6 or 7 individuals who are either friends or acquaintances who are getting together in someone's kitchen, and they're plotting on, hey, we'll go to Walmart tomorrow, the 4 of us, and we'll grab as much as we can, and I'll have the van waiting outside. Again, it's organized, it's plotted, it's thought out, but it's not to the level of the sophistication that a true organized crime family would be involved with. That's the second type. The third type is the individual who has a drug problem, a mental health problem, and that individual is going in on their own and stealing what they can to support their drug habit. In essence, these are the three types of individuals and individual who are involved in retail crime. And, we as district attorneys need to treat them all differently because obviously there are 3 different entities that are doing this. I'll leave you with this before we get into a bit of a question and answer here. I know that there are some district attorneys out there in some, quite frankly, major cities across the country who are saying that, we don't have the resources or we don't have the time to get involved in retail crime. I can tell you that those are few and far between. They exist, they're out there, and for whatever reason, whether it's political or a resource issue, they don't feel that prosecuting retail crime is a priority of theirs. For every one of them, there are hundreds of district attorneys across the country who do take this seriously, who are prosecuting these crimes, and who are out there to support the business community and keep our streets and our stores safe.
Well, District Attorney Flynn, I want to dive right in on what you just said, because I think that's right. Like if I'm watching the news, sometimes I hear about those examples that are few and far between. But in talking with talking with DAs from across the country, I was just talking with Summer Stephen out in San Diego, for example. And when we talk to local chambers across the country, the story that we hear is about how district attorneys are working to organize local law enforcement, the local business community, and the prosecutor's office to tackle this challenge, and particularly with groups 1 and 2 that you described, these
Right.
real organized syndicates. So noting you guys are doing really incredible work helping organize this. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. So, as was mentioned, I'm the Erie County District Attorney. And for those of you in the audience right now who don't know where Erie County is basically Buffalo, New York. But Buffalo, New York is a major city in Erie County here in New York State. And, here in Buffalo and in our county overall, we actually have a retail crime task force. And the way it works here in Buffalo is that our biggest mall happens to be in one of our suburbs. It's not actually in the city of Buffalo. It's in Cheektowaga, which is a first-ring suburb here in Buffalo. The Walden Galleria is our biggest mall. And so because it sits in Cheektowaga, New York, a detective from the Cheektowaga Police Department kind of leads our retail crime task force. And we meet once a month, literally at the mall, in a conference room at the mall. And the detective from the Cheektowaga Police Department gathers in members of my office, members from other police departments across the county here, the state police, the sheriffs, and with loss prevention officers from various outlet stores and overall stores here in the Buffalo area. And we meet once a month and we talk about cases. We talk about trends. We talk about what's going on, what they're seeing in various stores across the county. And so this is how it looks in counties nationwide. I know you mentioned my good friend Summer Stephan from San Diego. She's doing the same thing in San Diego. They have these retail crime task force where they all get together and they talk about not only cases and mainly repeat offenders. All right. What we try to do is we try to target the repeat offenders and basically try to get them off the streets. And so it's very organized from our standpoint, and it's very deliberate in what we're trying to do from a law enforcement perspective and from a communication perspective, working with our local businesses and our local retailers.
So if you happen to be a local retailer, one of those local businesses, do you have advice for them today? How can they best work with the district attorney in their area? What's the best form for them if they're saying, listen, this is a problem in our neighborhood, in our community? What should they be doing to help?
Obviously, communication is a key. Having that direct link to the detective in your community. Now, again, here in some counties are more complex than others. Now here in Erie County, we got about 40 different law enforcement agencies that are in my jurisdiction. Believe it or not, and even though San Diego County is bigger than Erie County, San Diego only has 12 because the city of San Diego is much bigger from a geographical standpoint, and it encompasses much more the suburbs of San Diego that actually fall within the city of San Diego. It's not like that here in Erie County. You know, Buffalo is relatively small compared to the overall county. And so, whatever jurisdiction that you're in, whatever town or village or city where your business is located in, you need to have a direct link to that police department. And your loss prevention officers need to be in communication with that local police department to let them know what's going on. Now, when obviously a crime occurs, video is key. So you need to save the video, all right? I know that some stores have kind of like a rotating video in the sense that it automatically erases after 24 or 48 hours. Whatever you can do out there in your businesses and in the retail stores to not let that get erased, to save that video is extremely helpful. And then, again, I know that every store has different protocols on what to do when someone is literally stealing, whether or not you chase that person down or let them go. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to run your business or what to do, but if you, for safety of your employees, if you do decide to let them go, then I recommend that maybe have someone follow them out in the parking lot and try to get a license plate. All right, try to do something to catch where they're going and what car they get into. I don't want you to tackle them, obviously. All right, I don't want anyone getting hurt, but I mean, whatever you can do to maybe follow them out in the parking lot and get a license plate would be obviously very helpful.
Well, to your point, I happen to live in Montgomery County, Maryland,
Yep.
a suburb here of Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And
So you only have one police department, which is that whole countywide police department. Yeah.
for the whole county.
Yep.
But we had one of those kind of small organized crime rings that had hit multiple shops in the neighborhood that I live in, including some of them twice. And the police finally apprehended, and the district attorney is now prosecuting what turned out to be 6 individuals. But the reason that they were able to track them down is an employee walked outside after they'd came in. They didn't, and they got the license plate number and the description of the getaway car.
Yep.
And that allowed the police to apprehend them shortly thereafter. And then the whole thing unraveled. So to your point, there is a lot of things that may be common sense, but in that moment, if you remember to do, can be quite helpful.
Absolutely.
One of the aspects of this, the ring I just spoke about, it was beginning to turn more violent, and obviously that is a great concern for retailers. That they're more than anything else, you want to protect your employees and your customers.
Yes.
Are you seeing, from your vantage point, more violence when it comes to retail theft? And is that moving it up as an elevated offense for prosecutors when you look to take on these cases?
Yes, I mean you're seeing more violence because you're seeing more and more retail crime. So from a proportional standpoint, I'm not sure that there is more actual violence happening per actual theft. You're just starting to hear more about it because there's more underlying thefts, and so if there's more underlying thefts, then there's going to be more violence that occurs. So I'm not convinced that there's more violence, like I said, proportional to the actual number of retail crimes being committed out there. But I certainly agree that due to the fact that there's more retail crimes happening, that the math just dictates that there's going to be more violence. And so, that obviously increases the penalties and the charges that we could levy against an individual. So yes, we are definitely taking that very seriously. We are definitely leveling charges that are appropriate, that equal the actual crime occurred, whether it's assault or, God forbid, a shooting that occurs. But again, that's why I said before, in order to keep everyone safe, I really don't advocate having your loss prevention officer pretend he's Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, all right, and jump on the guy. I mean, I recommend you let him leave, and then you try to get the license plate number, or again, hopefully you got video here where we can figure out who the person is, and we'll obviously investigate and try to find him.
So that is great advice for our business leaders. I want to turn quickly for a moment to think about what public policy can do and what other elected officials, particularly in legislatures, can do. So one of the things we've been tracking at the U.S. Chamber is states that are updating their laws to give prosecutors more tools to deal with the very organized nature of this theft. Aggregation requirements for ability, so you can aggregate multiple thefts together to prosecute someone. Yep. Creating more cross-jurisdictional ability for prosecutors in one county to work with prosecutors in another county to deal with the fact that oftentimes these criminals don't respect our political boundaries. What do you see from your vantage point at the District Attorneys Association as the most worthwhile policy reforms or legal reforms that our elected officials can implement?
Well, obviously, one of the biggest reforms was the INFORM Act. Okay, but now again, that was on a federal level, but that's crucial because, again, like you mentioned, not only do criminals cross county barriers or lines, they also cross state lines. So anytime an individual crosses a state line, and again, you'll see this more so, especially in some of the major metropolitan areas that are near state borders. So take, for your example, the Washington, D.C. area. You have Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. Here in New York City, you got New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. So whenever you get multiple states involved, it's going to be a federal crime, and the district attorneys really can't or don't get involved in that, all right? But the INFORM Act obviously was crucial from a policy standpoint, where now it forces Amazon and some of these other social media platforms, when they see someone or something suspicious on Amazon where someone is selling 1,000 widgets, all right, it makes them now report that to law enforcement, all right? And so from the big picture level, that was crucial. Coming down to the state level, obviously, aggravating crimes where we can have more potential punishment for repeat offenders is extremely helpful. In New York, we can get that anyway because we have multiple felony statutes. All right, so we already kind of have that, in the sense that if someone has multiple felonies, no matter what it is, okay, we can tack on more time right there. So I really don't need, as long as they were felonies, I really don't need anything specific here in New York in order to get greater punishment. But I applaud any state across the country to look at their penal laws and to be able to address the individuals who are repeat offenders. And from a policy standpoint, I'll go even further, from the federal government down to the state government, and then let's go to my level at the DA. From a policy standpoint, I have developed a policy where what I do is I tell the retailers, when we catch someone on the first time, get an order of protection against that individual that prohibits them from going back to the store. And then if the individual violates that order of protection and goes to the store and only commits, say, a misdemeanor, they steal a candy bar or whatever, okay, I can make it a felony because now it's a burglary, because they have now trespassed, violated order of protection, gone into a store that they're not allowed to with the intent to commit a crime. That crime only being, say, a misdemeanor, stealing a candy bar, but it doesn't matter though. I can get them now on a burglary felony. So it's creative ways like that from a policy standpoint that district attorneys can do all across the country.
Well, District Attorney Flynn, I'm so glad you brought up that example because that's exactly what we wanted to highlight today. The fact is that this requires a federal, a state, and a local response. District attorneys like yourself across the country are doing really innovative things to work with local law enforcement and to work with the business community to confront this challenge. The fact is that we're all in this together, and we have to figure out how to work together to successfully combat the scourge of retail theft. And the tips that you've shared today for business leaders about what they can do in their own stores, but also tips for how we work with our elected officials and what other district attorneys can do are incredibly valuable. So I'll let you get the last word, but I just want to thank you for all the work that you do, not only there in Erie County and Buffalo, New York, but in leading the District Attorneys Association and creating best practices, both for district attorneys, but for the business community as well.
Well, thank you. And what I would just leave you with is this: don't let the narrative out there give you pause, in the sense that I know that there is a lot of not a lot, but a few big city DAs across the country who make a lot of headlines by saying that we're not going to prosecute these cases, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. And obviously, when you hear that, that gives you concern. You at the Chamber of Commerce and you out in the business community across the country in general. Let me just reiterate what I said at the beginning. Those are few and far between. The overwhelming majority, even those from big cities like us, are taking this seriously and are prosecuting these crimes. Now, again, let me be perfectly honest with you and fair here. At the same time, those individuals who do have a drug problem, an opioid problem, a mental health problem, all right, I want to get them help too. We all do, okay? I'm not looking to throw them in jail. Those who need help, those who are stealing to support an underlying addiction or problem that they have, we can have compassion for them and get them help, all right? But those who are on an organized level, who are doing this to make money and are doing this for pure theft, those are the ones that we can prosecute. Those are the ones who need to be held accountable for their actions. And I assure you, district attorneys across the country are holding these people accountable. And I give you my word, we will continue to do that each and every day.
Well, District Attorney Flynn, thank you so much. You can count on the Chamber to be a partner with you and the District Attorneys Association as you take on this challenge. Thank you for everything that you do. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. We'll continue this ongoing series, providing you with the latest updates of what we're doing to tackle particularly organized retail thefts and practical tips that we can all use. Until the next time, thanks for joining us.